Roommate is a cat. Now, this is an anime that I watched with my girlfriend. I have deep appreciation for it, but at the same time, this anime shouldn't have worked because mostly I have watched Shonen Jump animes like One Piece. I recently finished One Piece and it was a lot to go through 1050 episodes or even more than that, but this anime was just 12 episodes, simply. And the way I found it was I don't watch slice of life anime, and slice of life anime is usually based in the Nichijosei philosophy of Japan, which is, just a simple everyday life and how you appreciate for it, which I'm gonna get into in a minute. But at the same time, there was no big plot, there was no big drama like American films or American cartoons that someone is fighting, someone is winning, someone is losing. None of that. It was simple everyday life, and the way each episode was showing the character Subaru and his cat was beautiful. It has something to teach you. It stays with you, and the reason why it stayed with me was also personal because I spent that time with my girlfriend and we were just watching that anime, trying to drift off to sleep, but actually it was too fun to drift off to sleep. So we ended up watching it every day and trying to savor that moment as much as we could. Now, here the story begins why this anime is so important and why this anime really makes sense and what you can actually learn from it. So, if you're around to witness the Japanese philosophy, if you're into something which is not just a lot of fighting and a hero's journey, but more into everyday life and how you can appreciate your everyday life, this is the anime for you. So stick with me as I break down the philosophy behind My Roommate is a Cat and why you should watch it. Most stories begin with some sort of progress. You have a hero, and that hero is either a guy who is damaged or has some sort of conflict with the world or is trying to change. And we see this guy developing into a character which we would eventually fall in love with or eventually start rooting for. But this is different in My Roommate is a Cat because Subaru is a guy who has literally lost his parents and trying to grieve that process. But within this anime, from the very first episode, you start to see that Subaru is living in a world where he's socially anxious. He's living inside his house most of the time, trying to write his next novel. That is a way of him to distract himself. Now, there is a Japanese philosophy called Ma, which is the silence. And within Ma, Subaru lives inside this Ma, which is the space between things, the pause, the silence, and Subaru lives inside it. He's not written as a character who is broken. He's not written as a character who needs to get out of this silence, but somebody who really likes living in it because it's better to live inside the house, read his books, watch the world pass by rather than interact with that world because he always found it difficult to connect with people, go out and make new friends. And it is very important for this anime to exist because this is where Haru comes in. Because Haru is someone who appears. She appears when he is there on his parents' grave and he's trying to eat there with his parents like, hey, I miss you guys, I'm all alone, and he's crying, and that is when Haru appears. In the middle of this thought where Subaru is trying to write his novel. Now you would think that, okay, it's going to be a cute show about a guy who takes in a cat and you're gonna see the cat shenanigans and what is it like to be a pet owner. But I was surprised. We were in for a ride. From the very first episodes, we see the dual perspective of Subaru and we also see the perspective from Haru, the cat, because Haru has his own perspective. Also, the philosophy of Shizen. In Japanese philosophy, the characters, especially the animal characters, are written as they are. They're not written as someone special. They are written without any narrative. Now we start seeing Subaru's perspective that cat is spilling the food. She's scratching the door while he's trying to write on his laptop. She is just causing nuisance, running around. And we see all that happening from Subaru's perspective first, that he's annoyed. He's like, oh my God, why did I even bring this cat into my home? And that reminded me of my cat when I first brought my cat Hope in my house and thinking that it's going to be cute. She's going to be running around. I will be taking care of a pet and it's going to be amazing, right? But I was in for a surprise as well because my cat was fucking monster. Same like Haru. You see Haru running around scattering food and Subaru is not the kind of guy who is patient. As we said earlier that he doesn't like interacting with the world. any living being other than himself. We see it in other episodes as well, that how he's stressing out just going out to get food for Haru, and he's like, oh my god, I'll have to talk to people, I'll have to interact with the world, I'll have to see what if they don't like me, what if that happens. And he is already going in this downward spiral, which happens to a lot of people who are struggling with social anxiety, or people who do not know how to interact with the world or build connection. They have this tendency of imagining and assuming what the world might think about them. But here, the beauty of Japanese philosophy and this slice of life anime strikes us again. We see the world from Haru's perspective. When we see why Haru was scattering food, we realize that Haru was scattering food because Haru thought that Subaru is not eating anything. When she was scratching the door, Haru thought that he must be really lonely. When Haru was jumping around, she actually saw the ghost of his parents running around and thought that, hey, this ghost is trying to harm him. And she started running around trying to get off, you can't hurt my human. When we see that perspective, we understand that Haru is not trying to create chaos, but she's simply being a cat. Nothing more, nothing less. Now it brings me back to the philosophy of Nichijosei. While movies focus on big climax, big moments, explosions, drama, or some sort of celebration, somebody died. Okay, Subaru parent died. Here, in this slice of life anime, the way it is unfolding is very rooted in this philosophy of Nichijosei. Nichijosei is everything that happens in everyday life. No one is winning, no one is losing, they are just existing. In Japanese culture and media, especially slice of life anime, Nichijosei is celebrated rather than being ignored. It highlights a specific philosophy. There is beauty and peace in everyday life. Instead of waiting for hero's journey to start, Nichijosei asks us to appreciate the comfort of a routine that works. It is the feeling of nothing is wrong and everything is exactly as it usually is. Through Haru, Subaru starts opening his doors, quite literally. He meets Nana, a kind pet shop clerk, and her brother. He reconnects with his childhood friend Hiroto, and he finally confronts the grief of his parents' loss. He realizes that while he was taking in a stray cat to write his new novel, the cat was actually the one rescuing him from his own isolation and loneliness. In Nichijosei, it is the steady bass line of a song, Mono no Aware, also comes in, which is the bittersweet feeling you get when the song eventually ends. It translates roughly to the pathos of things or the empathy for things. The beauty isn't just in the relationship between Subaru and his parents' loss. The beauty is that we are seeing how Haru comes in, and we see that the life that Subaru shared with his parents was actually impermanent, and it was only there for a moment. It was temporary. You feel a gentle sadness for Subaru as he grieves for his parents and as he realizes that that moment is gone. It is the beauty that we were there to see him grieve through that process. It is the beauty that we enjoy seeing him realizing that because he took this cat into his house, he was able to overcome his isolation. He was able to overcome his anxiety about people. And as he starts meeting and connecting with new people, he realizes that the world isn't so bad, that his isolation was only his own world. As he was trying to live in that silence, as he was trying to retreat from the world was trying to open doors for him and say that you should come and see, life isn't that sad. And as we start progressing in the story, we also see that Subaru is trying to interact with the world. Like, okay, this creature here that I have taken in to write my new novel, she is not really someone that I understand. She's a cat. So Subaru also tries to see, like, okay, if I leave more food, what would happen? If I take her to the vet, what would happen? And he starts freaking out about little things. But as other people start coming in his life, he realizes that everybody else is also very patient. Like his friend, his editor, Nana, they're all trying to help him in this new endeavor of keeping a cat. But also, we see the story unfolding from Haru's perspective. We see Haru's life, how it was hard for her to be a stray cat, how she saw her other two brothers going to human family, and she also felt the same sadness that it was temporary. The bond she shared with her brother, it was temporary. And it does happen, right? When you see a friendship that is dissolving, as you start growing into an adult, the friends that you had once in your life, in school, they're not your friends anymore. Or the people that you met in college, you shared those great moments with them. But eventually, as you start growing apart, because life changes, and you realize that, hey, those friends of mine, they're not my friends anymore. They have moved on. They have a different life. They have their own kids. They have their own business, or they're working somewhere. And you start feeling this gentle sadness that it was beautiful for as long as it was, and I enjoyed it. And that is mono no aware in practice. If you start practicing mono no aware, or the simple everyday life of Nichijosei, you realize that life as it is not that dangerous. Life as it is actually quite beautiful. In everyday life, as you wake up and you start practicing this philosophy of, hey, if I am moving slow, how do you start enjoying that movement? If I'm breathing, I'm aware, I'm glad that I'm breathing. And I also feel that I've practiced this Nichijosei while watching this anime with my girlfriend, because we were simply just there for half an hour seeing the story unfold from both the perspective, from Subaru and from Haru. And we realized it's trying to teach you something small, that in everyday life, we have these moments of misunderstanding with our partners, with our friends, and we feel that sometimes we can't understand them. The same happens with Subaru and Haru. Haru doesn't understand the human language, and Subaru doesn't understand what Haru is doing and why she's doing those things. But eventually, we see that these misunderstanding is part of our everyday life. Even the conflicts you have with your partner, and you sometimes feel that she's not understanding me or he's not understanding me. And when we begin to have these conversations, and when we begin to stay in that moment, again, the silence, the philosophy of Ma, and we let it stay, that disconnect and that misunderstanding turns into something slowly which builds connection over time. And that's what happens in this anime as well. Beautifully, as it unfolds with every other episodes, we start seeing these dual perspective, because we see that they're not trying to do something big. Subaru doesn't decide to change overnight and he says like, now I need to change my life because I have lost my parents. He sees it through other life. He sees that I must now start cleaning my house because the cat is there. I must start cooking better food, because if I don't cook better food, my cat will grow fatter and I wouldn't know what kind of food she likes or she doesn't like. As Subaru starts taking care of Haru, he realizes that it is beautiful to just sit down and eat with someone. He realizes those moments when he was invited to come eat with his parents. He realizes those moments when his parents always invited him to go out and travel, but he declined. But slowly, because of Haru, he realizes that his parents were inviting him to the places where he would feel comfortable. So they were always thinking about him. And as he kept declining them, he also felt the grief that why didn't I go there with them? I wish I would have spent more time with them. I wish I would have done this. Carrying this regret is hard. It's big. But at the same time, this is the beauty of this anime. The way it showed how he was passing through that moment of grief, he wasn't holding on to it. He didn't keep isolating himself. He tried to open himself up to the world slowly. And we see that as he starts writing this new novel about Haru as an inspiration, we see that more and more people start liking his stories. They appreciate it. And he also thinks like, wow, the world actually appreciates me. Why was I running away from it? He actually goes to the signing of his book. More people show up. More people like his stories. They connect with what he's talking about. And this is the beauty that this anime teaches you, that in everyday simple life, there will be moments when you're going to lose something. There will be moments when it's not going to be big event, but at the same time, if you learn how to enjoy these small, simple moments, this half an hour practice of Nichijosei, or living in the silence like Ma, or appreciating the beauty of a flower dying on your table, you realize that the everyday life is not as absurd as it sounds. You don't need a lot of money. You don't need some big event for you to appreciate your life, but you can actually appreciate life as it is. And that's why you should totally watch this anime, because it is going to give you the moment to appreciate how life is. Nothing grand, nothing exciting, but for what it is. It's life. And I hope you really enjoyed this video. If you want me to break down other animes and give you more like philosophical ideas behind these animes, subscribe, watch the channel, and share this video with someone and let me know what did you like about this anime. It would be great to hear from you guys.